Howdy. Today is March 21st, 2024, and I'm parked on the PCH by Topanga Canyon. Just got off the phone with the radiation people at, I think it's called St. Mary's Medical Center in somewhere over there in LA. Starting radiation treatments tomorrow morning at 10:30. Yesterday morning I did a I'm just gonna keep going with this. I had an MRI, and so they could compare it with the one from January and November, to calculate the radiation treatments. And yesterday afternoon I got the results back. So the lesion that started out a little over 5 centimeters is now somewhere between 4 and 3.3 centimeters. There is only one lymph node involved. That started out in November at 1.4 and at the 1.4 centimeters, and right now, which is like a half an inch, and right now it is about 1.3. So this past 3 months of chemo, 5 chemo infusions has obviously not gotten rid of the cancer. And I knew that was going to be the case about a month ago, that the pace of it shrinking wasn't going to be enough to get rid of the cancer. And even given that, I agreed to do the 5th infusion, in part so that it would create a window where we could overlap the chemo with the radiation. And something tells me that may be the shock to the cancer necessary to create this catastrophic cascading event where it basically knocks the legs out from underneath. The support system of the cancer is permanently damaged to the point where it can't recover. So tomorrow we embark on a schedule of 25 to 28 treatments, 5 days a week. As of tomorrow, I will be in the 3rd week of the effects of the last infusion, the 5th infusion. And I'll be entering the 2nd week of doing the chemo pills in this infusion cycle. I will continue the chemo pills through every day that I get a radiation treatment. I'll be taking the chemo pills. That's part of the treatment. Some good news. 2 good newses. Aside from the fact that there's only one lymph node involved, unfortunately it hasn't budged a whole lot, is that there aren't any other lymph nodes involved. Well, we started out at T4 disease. Now we're down to T1, T being the number of lymph nodes involved. But in this report it says that my prostate is normal, and that's an improvement given that when in all the reports up until now the prostate has been slightly larger, and which is it's not unexpected that would be, because it's kind of expected for as men get older, that's what happens. Their prostate starts to enlarge. But now it's actually improved. So that's it's good to that also says that, you know, I'm not at risk of prostate cancer now. So yay! Celebrate what you can celebrate while you can celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is I had a pretty hard time yesterday morning with this MRI, because it was supposed to be with contrast, which means that they, in the last, you know, they do the imaging for an hour or so, and then in the last 10 minutes they come back in and they inject you with this dye that lights up wherever the cancer is. And they had a really hard time finding a vein. It took them 5 tries to get a vein that was viable. And the nurse said, you know, she was very frustrated. She was like, your veins look really good, but every time I poke it, they explode. And then she said, are you on chemo? She didn't know anything. She just was called in to do this, put in this IV line. And she said, have you been on chemo? I said, I'm on it right now. And she was like, that's what it is. Because apparently chemo weakens your blood vessels. So I have this little brain trust of friends who are doctors, some of whom are actually cancer survivors. And as soon as I got the results back yesterday, I sent them to them before I did anything else. And one of them happened to have mentioned that the rectum is an area where they often use to administer drugs because of the number of blood vessels there are there. And she said that in an earlier text from the day before, and something said I should ask her about that. And I was like, what's the story with this? I didn't know about the rectum being full of blood vessels. She says, oh yeah, that's why we use it for administering drugs, because there's a high concentration of blood vessels. And so she and I kind of, brainstormed on this, and I think we may have found why I'm bleeding so much. So, you know, it's been a little over 3 months since I started the chemo, and about a month into the chemo is when I started bleeding, and it's gotten progressively more, to the point where now, just the past couple of days, it's every couple of hours I'm either pooping out blood clots or actual puddles of blood. And I'm sorry if that's too graphic for people, but this is what's up, you know. Very concerning and unsustainable as well. You know, initially I was thinking, well, maybe this is how the cancer's leaving and so forth. But the bottom line is, I think we kind of figured out that what's happened is that the effects of the chemo have been very slow. The lesion has been shrinking, but very slowly. As the toxicity levels, you know, with every infusion, the toxicity levels increase, the blood vessels have become more and more weakened. And I think what's happened is that as the lesion shrinks, it's been stressing the blood vessels in its vicinity enough to have them, you know, rupture, and that is probably the cause of all this blood. The good news is that as I get further and further away from the chemo, processing it out, the blood vessels will strengthen again, and hopefully, and this problem should go away. But another side effect of that is a lot of bruising, this mystery wounds and that sort of thing. So, even sleeping wrong can, you can end up with like, a whole patch of your body just all bruised up, and you're like, what did I do? How did this happen? But it's because of the weakness of the blood vessels themselves. So great, it's great to know why there's so much bleeding. The question for me, I haven't gotten an answer back from anybody yet, but I'll be, certainly it's on the top of my list, is this weakening of the blood vessels caused by all chemos, by the chemo infusion, or by the chemo pill, or both? Because I've had my last infusion, but I'm going to continue these chemo pills for at least the next 6 weeks. So this problem is going to persist, and it's good to know not to be so alarmed by what's happening. End of mystery, hopefully. So what I've been doing in preparation for, at the recommendation of the doctor, because last time we spoke, I asked her, is there anything I can do dietarily to prepare for the radiation, and she recommended red meats and iron, 150% more than the daily recommended amount. And so I just got some iron complex yesterday. I haven't started taking them yet, but I will after I eat shortly. And I've been eating steak every day that I can, and I don't usually eat red meat, because I've had some really wonderful experiences with cattle, with cows, just hanging out with them, and I can't help but see their faces every time I eat a steak. But what am I going to do? It's just just being mindful of the impact of me getting to stay alive, or trying to stay alive, and them making a sacrifice for that. So anyway, I'm literally beefing up to get the iron in their blood into me, so that I can make it through this. As far as flying goes, the earliest would be sometime in May, and that's kind of my little candy, a mental candy at the end of all this, is being able to fly again. So that's pretty much all the most important stuff. I wish there was, a better response after, going through these, 3.5 months of bullshit, basically. 95 to 99% of the discomfort that I've been going through, the suffering that I've been experiencing, is all due to the chemo. The cancer, it doesn't hurt, you'd hardly know it was there while it's killing you, It's a lot of bullshit to go through to, as I said to somebody earlier today, to end up back at square one, you know. But I recognize the blessing that it is, given that in my grandmother's time, this diagnosis was a death sentence, and I feel very akin to her right now, because for the oddest reasons. I've said this before, I'm going to just say it again. She survived. She was the third successful colostomy. They experimented on her. They developed the whole technology through her. She would, give them feedback on how, what the latest innovation was or should be. And she lectured to medical schools and whatnot. She survived, as I said, for 38 years, and every friggin' year Thanksgiving was the celebration of one more year of her surviving, because she wasn't, most people that with that diagnosis weren't expected to. And so I never knew her. She was diagnosed in 1954, and I was born in 1957, and I never knew her not to be dealing with cancer. And I spent when I was 5 years old, I spent a lot of time with her during the week. She would, take care of me. While, she and my grandfather, who was a janitor, worked as a janitor, they ran a group home for foster children, 14 foster children. And, talk about a life of service, you know what I mean? So I take a lot of inspiration from her, but in that time, I didn't realize that I had all these memories until, I'm laid up and I find myself making these noises occasionally that I would hear her make, these subtle, sudden utterances of a pain or what I know now, it was just a burp, but at the time it sounded like there was something wrong with her. And then when I was 5, I would just react, and I would, is there anything, and she was, she was in her, in her little cone of trying to endure, and so now I know what all those noises she was making were, because I make the same noises. And what a crazy, connection to have. But I value, these connections with the ancestors, right? Because that's what I'm here for, right? We live for the ancestors one way or the other. We are the fulfillment of their prayers, right? No matter how we, honor that or not, So anyway, I said in an earlier post, there's a lot going on with what I'm doing here, what I'm enduring, that I can't expect people to understand. I've just come to an understanding myself that there's a lot I don't share, because I know it's just too much for people. They have a hard enough time watching this and hearing the ins and outs. But, I'm not just doing this for, people's casual entertainment. I'm doing this to leave a record, for those who may, come after and need to know something about what this journey is, and also for myself, so I'll remember the ins and outs of where I was when, things went the way they went. So this is as much record keeping as social media, whatever. Anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone that is paying attention, that does take the time to listen in on this journey. It is a shamanic journey, And I would love to share more, but I know that there may come a time for that, but for most people it's just too much. Most people just can't, they can't even deal with the concept of death and dying, whereas, people going through this are facing it every day. You're always contemplating, what if things are taking a turn? What is this what dying is? And often whenever I start talking about this sort of stuff, I write about it, people, they kind of want to shut it down or shut it down and say, no, you're brave, you're strong, you're gonna make it through this and all that. That's not that's not the point. That's not the fucking point. The point is right now, right here, right now. This is all we get, right here and right now. No matter what the fuck, no matter what comes after or what came before, right here, right now. And looking into witnessing the great mystery, the great unfolding of our existence, recognizing it, some people will go their whole lives and leave the world without ever having a moment to think about it. But that's obviously not me, because this is the fourth time in 5 years that I've had to deal with life-threatening things. 3 cancer diagnoses and the accident 2 years ago, where I got dragged off the dune. I could have been killed instantly. When I got dragged off that dune, and I had 4 months of recovery to contemplate what that was all about, as I put myself back together and taught myself how to walk again, so I could run again, so that I could fly again, And as I said to someone the other day, this is so unusual. It's so obvious that this is an orchestration of my own design, in terms of pre-life agreements and that sort of thing. I chose this incarnation to experience this passage for a reason, and I don't know fully what that reason is. I'm just doing the work, and the work is being as present as I can, no matter what the fuck happens, no matter what the fuck is happening, because this is all we get. If there's one thing I've learned, it's when you first get diagnosed, your schedule will get all filled up by doctors and appointments and all this sort of shit, and you have to take control of that, and carve out because it's your life. You have to carve out your time for you to deal with the reality of what's happening. And I was able to do that and learn that early in these 4 trials that I've been through thus far. And one of the things that I've learned from all of them is that you can spend all day waiting for a phone call that's going to decide the rest of your life, or you can live the rest of your life while waiting on a phone call. And it takes discipline to be able to do that, to remain, present and enjoying, the ocean and the air, and being able to stand erect and being able to walk and be able to breathe and so forth. While things transpire, you reach a point where you do everything that you can do, and after that it's just left up to the source of the universe to unfold, or not accordingly. So if you've done everything you can do, that's it. You know, it's out of your hands at that point. But the main point is to try to remain as conscious and present as possible from one moment to the next. You know, both of your vitality or lack thereof. You know, and I've had a sense that was activated, kind of a spidey sense of being able to see vitality in things, and it goes both ways. You can see how close someone is to death. It doesn't mean that they're going to die. It means that if they didn't do certain things, that's what would happen. And 9 times out of 10, they change direction and end up, back on the path of vitality. Where they're being nurtured by their environment, as opposed to coming apart. And you can see the life draining out of them and that sort of thing. Anyway, these are some of the, just scratching the surface of some of the things that I've been privy to and given ample time to meditate on, in the depths of the night, in the blaze of an afternoon. And yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna let it go there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And remember, we love you.